most important thing is to explain the how we use resources, how we waste resources. Most of the things go just unnoticed. However, maybe we will end up with clean water sooner than expected, and explaining what factors that our lives currently are really dependent on.
Hello and welcome to a whole new episode of Engati CX. I'm your host Sarang Sharma, and today we have a technology expert with us on the show. But before I introduce you to our guest, allow me to introduce you to the magic of Engati. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code digital CX platform available across 14 channels with 45,000 solutions created across 187 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by Inc.com, TechWorld, CIO, and many others. We run the Engati blog, the video channel, and of course the Engati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 400,000 visitors annually. And now for our guest, we have Beril Sirmacek on the show today. She is the assistant professor at Jönköping University in Sweden. She aims to use artificial intelligence and computer vision to build solutions for a sustainable and healthy planet. She also has a successful YouTube channel where she shares insider information on computer vision, augmented reality, AI, ML, explainable AI, object recognition, tracking, and lots more. Welcome to the show, Beril.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here.
Before we dive into our interview with Beril, don't forget to subscribe Engati and tap the bell icon to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders from around the globe. Okay, so the first question for you, Beril. So, can you help us understand what is explainable AI and how explainable AI can be used in real life application?
Yes, explainable AI means we are looking at some mathematical tools in order to explain what happened when machine learning or AI made a decision, how it ended up with that decision, to explain it to either to user or to people who develop the algorithm. And there are many explainability ways. The main purpose is to bring a little bit transparency to that black box term, you know.
Okay.
But again, explainable AI will not help us to open up maybe all layers of neural network to say why these weights came up with this. And the question is it important? No. It depends on who the person is asking the question and what he or she wants to be explained. So explainable AI tools are many, and they're all focusing on explaining something specific about the network, but not everything, because the user is not interested in all weights and biases within and why those numbers are. But if it's a user, for instance, who applied to a bank account and the bank rejected her application, he or she wants to know why this algorithm came up with this answer. Then maybe we can use tools to explain to that user why we came up with this result. Maybe we can point out that you got a lot of debts before that you didn't pay, and we've seen this pattern in these kind of users. Therefore, this rule in our company states that we cannot give you an account. So explaining it to user. And what happens if the developer asks to explain things? The developer is not really interested with that answer. Developers' answers could be different. It depends on who is asking the question and what the reason is asking the question, explaining some part of this black box. Again, we cannot open it up totally transparently, but explaining it to the question asker.
Okay, so apart from that, I think that was a good explanation. So apart from like the banking domain, what other real life applications do you see around yourself, or we use day by day? What kind of real life applications does it have?
In real life application for user, it holds in medical domain. For instance, the algorithms made a decision about a cancer stage or decided
Mm-hmm.
to give medication or send him to surgery. The patient wants to know why the algorithm ended up with that decision. If the person doesn't trust on how this decision is made, he can also go to another hospital to get a second, third
Mm.
opinion. And that all depends on if the explainable AI method explanations gave trust to user or not. They are all focusing on around the same thing. Is it trustworthy or not? Can I trust on it or not? And again,
Yeah.
there is no mathematical value like if it's over than 50% I can trust like
Mm-hmm.
something. It all depends on who you are. Maybe you never trust on something which is not explaining you something specific. And
So,
other than that, developers nowadays are frequently using explainability methods to make sure that their algorithms are functioning good before deploying it to somewhere, to
production. Okay.
see if it's biased to training set, or is it really putting the right attention to the features that we are looking for. Again, if the algorithm is trustworthy or it's making a sane decision or not.
Okay, so from what I understand of algorithms, we have a certain accuracy or we have a certain error with every algorithm, right? So the explanation that we have for this, how the algorithm reached the solution that it did, is this also subject to this accuracy or error, the explanation itself?
Yeah, definitely, but it will explain you is this 30% accuracy because of the training data set that you used? Is it changing when you change the training data set?
Okay,
Or is it because of the network structure that you used? Maybe you have to modify your network or
okay,
train it differently. So it might give you some insights about why this 30% is coming. And then it is up to you after explanation is done whether you want to accept that explanation
explanation or not.
or
Okay,
do some changes.
okay. Okay, so my next question is, how can we know whether the solution generated by the machines can be interpreted by humans correctly and falls under explainable AI?
Oh, that's a difficult question. So it depends on, again, who is asking the explanation. Is it a user who went to hospital, bank, or who ended up at police station and the algorithms gave a response? And of course, the user must have, in my opinion, rights to ask why this decision is
Hmm.
made. Then
Yeah,
if it is really an open system, I hope people show why these decisions are made, and I hope this comes into more real life. For instance, they don't really end up like saying because algorithm did so, but they use tools to explain why this algorithm ended up with that decision, and then again it's up to the humans, the situation to discuss whether they really accept that
yeah,
they find it trustworthy decision or not. Again, it depends on ethics, it depends on moral, and of course the AI is mathematical tool, it's just a fit and function. It doesn't
yeah,
know about our humanly ethics, our humanly uh, judges instincts, and they cannot know. So it's
yeah,
are maybe traditions in specific regions, maybe some decisions are acceptable here and not acceptable in United States. So that depends on where you are also.
yeah. I think that's pretty interesting that you mentioned the traditions versus the instincts of humans cannot be incorporated into these algorithms, so that point brings me to my next question. What do you think are the pitfalls of machine learning? So these are few of them, but since now machine learning is being used in very sensitive domains like healthcare, finance, etc., automobile even. So what do you think are the pitfalls of machine learning?
That's a very good question. The main pitfall is, of course, um, we all the time fit things on training data sets, and it's impossible to not be biased.
Yeah.
So it's in any algorithm will be biased on what it learned from training data set, and when you deploy it in real life, then it will look for similar patterns when it's learned earlier in the training. So that's the biggest, I think, challenge of the machine learning. And of course, we try to overcome these challenges with power of AI by getting feedback and lifelong learning and trying to adapt the algorithms into specific situation or specific place it's being used. But nevertheless, it's going to learn what it gets feedback, and maybe something else, totally different situation happens that it doesn't know, and it will not know how to respond. For instance, I had an example that, this robots they made, Sophia. They made
Yeah, Sophia.
really human-like. Sophia can answer any question. You can. And Sophia has been to late night shows. Like
Yeah.
the anchors are having fun, making jokes, and Sophia is
Yeah.
answering. She's
Answering
able
them.
to
Yeah.
answer any question. Why? It's just digging the answer from internet connection and giving the answer. She can answer any question. But let's say Sophia and I in the same room, and I fainted. Is Sophia going to call ambulance?
No, I don't think so.
Probably not. It will not
No.
think
Yeah.
about that. It doesn't
Yeah.
have human triggers like something
Yeah.
is going on to this human and I should help. If she is not trained to
Trying to do that.
that situation, unexpected situation, maybe
Yeah.
they have never trained that unexpected situation can happen. Somebody can suddenly faint. Then Sophia can never know. But a small child or a small animal even will bark or do something because we've
Yeah.
got um, some inner feelings about
Yep.
the situation, that something strange going on and I should respond to that. So the biggest pitfall of machine learning is it's always dependent on what we showed as an example, and it will not know by itself more than those examples.
Yeah. So where do you think we draw the, so since we are like trusting our lives almost now to the with the machines, where do we draw the line with that trust, that we can't trust the machine more than this much or more than that? Because now, since it's in healthcare now, our lives depends on what the machine, what result the machine gives us.
The trust issue is also some person specific thing. There's no mathematical formula of trust. There is no threshold to say over then this person is trustworthy or not. But of course, if we are going to deploy an algorithm to somewhere, maybe depending on the company and depending on the solution, people might agree and write down some rules. We are accepting these numbers, these results, this similarity to training data set, like a trustworthy result. And the another way to check trust by itself within the system is
Yeah.
using maybe multiple machine learning and AI frameworks to solve the same problem and do some ensemble learning, like maybe you trained different structures, 5 of them, and 4 of them says this is cancer malignant, and one of them says no, this is benign,
But
and then you get the results of majority, and you give your trust because most of them gave the similar answer.
okay. So, can you give us some any kind of real world applications where using explainable AI we have enhanced the interpretability of machine learning models?
There's a maybe some users know there's a good example. People trained dog and wolf classification framework, and dogs, and most of them are very similar to wolves. They've got all the same face, and maybe some of them have very similar fur and stuff. How can you classify dog and wolf? It looks very challenging problem if it's not these small fancy dogs. But the algorithm was performing almost perfectly. It's given 99% accuracy, like something, and they didn't understand how it can work that good. It's given impossible results that it's classifying almost perfectly, and then they used explainable AI methods to see which pixels of this input are contributing to the final decision mostly. And then they realized most of the pixels who contribute to the final classification results were coming from background, not from dog or wolf themselves. So from the background, the AI learned that if it's snow in the background, it is wolf, and if it's a street on the background, it is dog. And then they came out that, okay, it's performing perfectly, but it's classifying scene, it's not classifying the animal.
Yeah.
And then the explainable AI methods helped it. Well, even though it's given 99.9% performance, we cannot trust on this system.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that even the DNA is like 99.8% same as dogs and wolves have a similar DNA. So I don't think that's pretty big challenge to classify those. So, so any other thoughts you like to leave our audience with, right, around explainable AI or use of ML in the real world happening around you right now?
I think we should introduce these methods to end users and industry more often, and try to get feedback from those users to know what kind of questions they need to be answered. Then we can turn back to our desks and try to develop new algorithms which can answer those questions for the end users, because eventually we are developing these things for the public, not for only publishing a paper and it's done. So we have to, just like yourself, just speaking it to people and introducing these methods. These are there and these are examples. How can they help you? Do you want to learn more about AI and why? What can give you more trust? And getting more questions from people, then that would end up developing more, and maybe we will achieve a different stage of XAI that we can discuss in the later conversation.
Also, one more question I would like to add is that you, when I was reading about you, you are working on certain things that towards that using AI towards a sustainable planet. So, what kind of things are going around in that space? I would like to know that.
In which field?
Sustainable, like using AI and ML to move towards a sustainable planet.
Well, again, it applies to many areas, and from my point of view, the most important thing is to explain how we use resources, how we waste resources. Most of the things go just unnoticed. However, maybe we will end up with clean water sooner than expected, and explaining what factors that our lives currently are really dependent on, what features are really making us having this comfortable life right now. We most of the time do not notice. We just wake up, go to bathroom, open the tap, and the water
Yeah.
just flows. And how much we are dependent on it. Assume that it's
True.
gone.
Yeah.
Assume that the light is not turning on, and these simple things are actually things that we are very highly dependent on. I'm having this conversation with you right now from other side of the world.
Word.
It looks very simple. I just pressed the
Yeah.
button and clicked the button. It worked. But the framework infrastructure behind it is so much more complicated, and what is it dependent on, and am I really sustaining it in my daily life activities, bringing more understanding to open up the black box of our world to
Yeah.
explain it to end users,
Yeah.
us, all of
Yeah.
us.
Interesting. Very
And
interesting.
yeah, of course, we can also use XAI methods to understand more these features and to make predictions and to change our actions accordingly, hopefully.
It's very insightful. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, Beril, for giving us your time. Your insights are really valuable insights. Very interesting to know everything happening around us in the space of AI and ML and how it's being, how we are expecting it to be explained to users. That's the even more interesting part for me personally. And I know our audience is really going to enjoy the interview. So yeah, we will be back with a new episode with a brand new expert soon. So stay tuned and we'll see you around for the next one.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.